even though the Army adopted this superordinate goal to care about not only mission readiness but mental health, these different professional groups within the Army that had to deliver on that goal were each focusing on part of the goal. You had junior level commanders at the company level, they're focused on mission readiness, training their units to be trained to deploy on short notice, where mental health providers are concerned more with the long-term health and welfare of their patients. And they're seeing the goals as zero-sum. And it's not only that these providers and commanders, that the locus of the conflict is about the rational pursuit of different goals, but it was also personal, that they had identity differences that made the conflict intractable, that these commanders saw themselves as warriors. You know, they're young men in their late 20s, early 30s, leading these all-male combat brigades. And then you have them interacting with these mental health providers, half of whom are women, the majority of whom are civilians who have never deployed or seen combat, who are professionals, experts, have PhDs, they spoke different languages, that it was difficult for them to interact in any meaningful way, such that there were intractable identity conflicts. They were stereotyping one another, providers viewing commanders as bullies, commanders viewing providers as sort of these Berkeley hippies, they would say. That they were defining one another by what the other was not, you know, warriors versus experts, that made it very difficult for them to work well together. What commanders started learning when they were in these anchored personalization structures and started to get to know their mental health provider and realize, hey, this person's not just here to screw my mission, they care about my soldiers, they can actually be a force extender, that they can make it so soldiers can see them sooner and get ahead of these issues, recover faster, that it makes sense to partner with them, that they're not just there trying to take my fighting force away. But this was enabled by having their own point of contact provider. Instead of working with this pooling structure of a different person each time, actually getting to know one person on a first name basis, that mattered. But again, the importance of that provider is also working surrounded by their professional colleagues so that they're not getting co-opted, that they are continually running things by their other colleagues at weekly meetings, so that they can keep one another in check and say, hey, I think you're getting a little too caught up with what Captain Smith is concerned about, that they would keep them more objective so that they're making sure they're considering what's best for the patient and not just what's best for the commander. In part of how they started to come to see one another in a different way, you had providers starting to learn the language, the lingo of the commanders and using proper military terminology, and some of the commanders starting to shift to using proper mental health terminology so that they're treating one another in a more respectful way, that they're starting to see the perspective of one another without getting so taken and sort of co-opted by that perspective, that allowed them to be in the space of creativity where they could work out these more integrative solutions to the conflicts that were facing them. Organizations where there's professional groups that have strong commitments to their professional identities may benefit most from an organizational structure that promotes anchored personalization. So you could imagine many organizations are trying to become more sustainable and truly want to integrate sustainability into their core organizational mission, but have to do this often by relying on sustainability professionals who have to be integrated into the organization in the right way. So many organizations put them off in a separate centralized office, and my research would suggest they're going to be of limited effectiveness there in terms of truly being integrated into the rest of the organization, where if you embed them fully, say put sustainability in manufacturing or put sustainability in marketing, that they might get co-opted by the concerns of manufacturing. But if you keep them centralized so that they can remain anchored and committed to their sustainable objectives, but perhaps are assigned as points of contact to, say, manufacturing or to marketing, so that the marketing person knows a sustainability person and they can develop a relationship, my research would suggest that a structure like that might help promote the organization adopting more sustainable objectives in a way that also makes sense for the business.